Welcome everyone to the NDILC number 3 principle, stretch yourself. We have our incredible Indira Banks is going to be hosting it today. Take it away.
All right, good morning. So the principle that we have today is stretch yourself. And basically it's if you can believe it, you can achieve it, I think is the fundamental concept. And I think that the ability to conceive of things that don't exist and comprehend novel, complex, abstract concepts and bring them to life is probably one of the more positive, fundamental characteristics of being a human. And really, if you're not stretching yourself, are you living up to your full potential as a human being, not just as a leader? So I wanted to sort of prompt a conversation with everybody here who definitely has demonstrated quite the capacity to stretch themselves. And but I think I wanted to talk about it in terms of individually, what we have done here to stretch ourselves, and then in a team concept where you have to stretch a team and being a leader. And so I'll give you a couple of the questions as a roadmap, and then hopefully you guys can start jumping in. One of the things that, while we all have a capacity to stretch ourselves, and in the practice of life, we do that regularly, there are times where we do actively shrink ourselves into a smaller box, into a cage, basically, and much smaller than we know we need to be in, and much smaller than we know we need to flourish in. And I wanted to ask if experience that everybody's had, and what are the reasons that we have all done that through the course of our career and through our life? Is it fear, like just being risk averse? Is it putting the needs of others before us? Is it having others influence how we think about ourselves? Sometimes called imposter syndrome. And so with that, I kick it off, and I want to know how you have overcome these obstacles in a practical sense. So even, a concept that we hear a lot about is manifestation, right? And self-talk and visualizing and vision boarding and writing down. Maybe, I know there's some people who write down their visions like 6 times in the morning, 3 times in the afternoon, 7 times before they go to bed, things like that. So with that, would anybody like to talk about one, generally the concept of stretching yourselves individually right now? We're not talking in the team setting, obstacles and sort of overcoming those. Anybody like to talk about this?
I'll start.
Okay.
Because I'm in a new role. I loved your examples because I identified with all your questions and suggestions with your roadmap. I'll start with sometimes we shrink ourselves. My previous company loved my manager. But towards the end, I was shrinking myself because I was comfortable. I had been there so many years. The team is phenomenal. I was sliding. I was like gliding. Wow, everything's good. My goals are met. But I knew that I was shrinking myself and my next opportunity because I wanted to advance in my career. I was going on 5 years, easy peasy, but I needed to stretch myself and grow. And at that point, I was unshrinking myself, making myself uncomfortable, and then putting my voice out there. And that happens a lot when you're comfortable, or sometimes you're risk adverse. Everything is running on all cylinders, right? You have that habit. So that was an opportunity where I knew I was shrinking myself because now I'm like, okay, I'm ready for that next level. I didn't get the support that I needed at that time. So you have to be your best advocate. You have to be your own voice. And that's the hardest part to do, is like, okay, get up there and I'm here. So I had to stretch myself, use my voice, raise my hand and say, I'm ready for that next challenge. And by the way, I'm giving you a year. And if it doesn't happen, I may not be here. And that's the hardest thing to do because you want to be professional. You don't want to be adversarial. You want to be coming from a good place that you want to continue to grow and develop as a leader and as a person. Fast forward, I got the opportunity here at this current bank. It's a brand new division. I had to stretch myself to the next level and create a business plan on if I had all the money in the world, what program would I want to create? What division would I want? And I'm the head of community lending. So it was an opportunity to really put my vision to water, put it in writing, and create a plan. And it's been a labor of love. I keep making lemonade every day because when you're fighting for something that you know it's important, at the end of the day, you're helping a family, it's worth that fight. You're not always going to get all your allies with you to see your vision, but that's where the data comes in, and that's where the program comes in, and that's where we're going to be executing a little bit more flawlessly. Nothing is perfect, but at the end of the day, you have to stretch yourself, believe in your goal, and know that at the end of the day, you're making an impact in your community, locally and nationally, to help others become a homeowner. And so that was something that I had to stretch myself to no degree. And I'm still continuing to stretch myself every day, because not only do you have the work that you have to do, but then there's other things that you didn't anticipate, like risk, compliance, second line of defense, and the list goes on and on and on. But you have to stretch yourself.
Can I ask, in your prior role, in your prior job, and then you had to face maybe some headwinds when you sort of changed and you said, I'm no longer comfortable, I want something different. And so I wanted you to talk a little bit about what you faced as a challenge there in terms of other people's response to you. And then in your current role, where you've been invited in to create something new, is it an entirely different set of people around you? Is the support system different, or are people still resistant to this sort of visionary aspect of your job and what you're doing?
It depends, because the support was there, but they didn't believe that I was going to do it. Right? Oh yeah, Vanessa's going to do it. She loves us. Yes, I do, but I have to stretch myself. So at that point, the support is like, oh my God, she's serious. And I left. And there's no going back. I do miss it. And now here at this new juncture, it is a completely new department. So it's been supported with many allies, and then others that are risk adverse are like, oh, we've never done it this way. What? So it's a fine line that you're always validating why you're here and the importance of homeownership at the end of the line. And so you have to look at the numbers and the metrics to say, there's a need here. And we have to justify why you're here. So yes, you have to have as many allies as possible on your bandwagon to understand your vision and your support. And sometimes it's scary. Not everyone's going to be on your side. They're not used to doing community lending. This is a brand new tabula rasa. And that's where you're like, wait a minute, but the face of the homeowner is changing. The demographics are changing. I am the future because the numbers say this. So we have to change in that process. And change is not always easy, especially when it's in finance. And I don't know any company that's ever static. So you have to constantly evolve and change. And it's scary to stretch yourself, because sometimes you're the only one there. And being in leadership is lonely because you cannot trust everybody. And that's another thing. You're like, oh, you want to stretch yourself? Be careful what you ask for. Because sometimes it's scary. And that's why having this group of women that understand and have been in your shoes, they're like, oh, Teresa, I need to have a cup of coffee with the girl. Let's talk about it. Because it's in a safe space. But you have to stretch yourself. So thank you for those questions, Indira. They were spot on. And I could totally relate to your question. I'm like, oh, I'm living proof of this every day.
So Indira, can I jump in real quick?
Yes.
So what people don't, which is incredible, what the analogy, it's perfect timing that Vanessa and I had the opportunity to go to Chapman University yesterday, to hear the story that she has all these millions of dollars to deploy for $20,000 down for a grant for home ownership in Southern California, New York. She came from, and she created this entire product from start to finish. And the idea is that here she is working for these large institutional banks where she could do anything within corporate structure for home ownership of what she's talking about, the face of it changing. Now she's working for a bank that specializes with the media and real estate in Southern California and New York. It's no longer national. It's very specific areas of what she's doing in a demographic of the entertainment industry where the workforce is the entertainment. It's not just the bank to the stars, it's everything. So she's bringing her 30 years of incredible history that she has in industry to that market share. And the idea is Chapman now has the media and real estate, which is an exact ringer for who she is in that environment. So when we talk about the spread, it's the environment of, okay, I'm comfortable because we're doing the same thing over and over again, whatever bank we talk on a national level of the top 4. And now she's doing a completely different environment, and it's Canadian based. Hello, Lynette. In the structure of the media entertainment, and real estate and media are the number one thing. Well, what are we talking about real estate? The focus of Tammy is all about the media, getting in the infrastructure. How do we care about the people to get the whole core of speaking a zillion times around the world? That kind of connection is the power of what we're talking about. So I just want to put it out there that we sometimes look at the fear of stretch yourself. And this last 12 years of the NDILC came together in an aha moment, not only our events, but what happened just yesterday, because now Vanessa got to see how the Brain Institute with Chitra, and I could go down the line, the Canadian connection with Let, and it was SCV, and the connection with Teresa and Tammy on the real estate side, and Indira, you with a compliance issue. I mean, we could go on, but that connection became a power of stretch yourself. So I just want to put it out there that the value of what Vanessa's done on that whole thing. I was talking to Teresa this morning. She's like, she's got that program. I'm like, that. Well, why aren't we, that power? But anyway, sorry, go.
That's right.
No, actually something you raised, and, asking some of the other folks on this call too, when do you, in that practice of stretching yourself, when have you found the need to move from the system that you are working in and that you're thriving in and that you've been promoted in and that you're, you become comfortable because you reached, those brass rings that you were supposed to have. Part of the reason you've reached it is because you have been stretching yourself, but what are the signs, or what have you felt that have maybe made you think, hey, I need to change where the place that I'm at, or change to another place?
I could jump in here, Indira, mostly because I really resonated with the phraseology that you just used, and I don't even know if you recognized it, but you talked about the practice of stretching yourself and the practice of really recognizing where you're at. And I think what I've come to learn is it is a practice. It's not one of these things where, well, it can be, where you wake up and you're like, oh shit, I'm in this place and I don't want to be here anymore. But the stretching yourself, I think, is the practice. And what I've come to realize is the times when I've had to stretch myself, I have found, so to your question, that I've been in this sort of like stressful place. Something's gone wrong. And we talk about this from a professional perspective, but really this is anywhere in our life, right? This is in our relationships, our love relationships, our familial relationships with parents, siblings, children, right? We find ourselves in these complacent places where it's like, wow, like this doesn't feel like it's fulfilling me anymore, right? And I think what I've come to learn is just being really mindful around continuing to evaluate what is meaningful to me, what is purpose, right? And Vanessa, you talk so much around purpose and waking up every day knowing that that bigger thing is there and pulling you forward. And I think where we don't stretch ourselves, and again, Vanessa, you mentioned this, is when we become comfortable, right? But the stretching yourself part of it is really just around practice of evaluating, am I still good here, right? And doing that on the regular, whether that's the daily practice, whether that's the weekly practice. And, I think for me, it's really recognizing that I am myself standing in my own way, right? Because when you get into the practice, you still have to do the work, right? You practice evaluating, but the stretching is actually the work part. The work part is what's hard. And, I think, from my perspective, it's really that gut feel of, am I okay with complacency right now? Or, is this now the time where I need to evolve? And what do I need to do that? And having a stretch yourself practice, whatever we call that individually, is really helpful, because starting is always the hardest thing, right? It's a bit cliche, but it's so true. Starting is the most difficult piece. And sometimes even knowing where to start is the most difficult part. And again, it's what I love about communities like this is, the inspiration to hear the stories of so many that get in these places, because I think what we're talking about is it's a very human condition, right? This condition of being where we are and wanting to go somewhere else. And all of the requirements that, that are needed for us to get there. So I think from my perspective, it's really about, being honest about where I am and where I want to be, and if I'm willing to take that step, and trusting myself, right? Trusting that you've got yourself, right? Whatever that path looks like is the most important part. It's important to have the infrastructure and the system and the champions, around you, but we have to be, confident in ourselves that we have the ability to find the resources we need, gather the support, find ourselves in the right communities and the right ecosystem. So I'm not sure if that totally answers your question, but your comment around the practice really, really resonated. And I think it's bang on.
Linda, let me ask you a follow-up question. As
Sure.
you are engaging in different areas of your life in the self-evaluation, sort of where am I at, and sort of taking the temperature, where, if ever, does the fear of failure come into that evaluation, if at all? Should it be part of that evaluation? Because I think that's
Yeah,
something that limits us all.
totally.
Right.
For me, it's really easy. There's two things, and I've done so much work around these sort of things as my limiting beliefs, and I mean, we could totally rabbit hole around why we all have those, but the reality is we do, right? And we all have come down a path that have created those things for us, whatever that looks like. For me, it's two things. One, it's well, I guess one leads to the other. What the fear of failure is, will I be able to look after my family, right? Will I, something happens to me, I get fired, I choose to take a different path and it doesn't really pan out. Will I be able to look after my family in the way that I want to, in the way we've set up and the infrastructure that we've put in place? And as a single mom, that's something that kind of resides with you every day, right? And the second piece really has evolved as I have gone down this journey, but also as my kids have grown, is what's the legacy I'm leaving for my kids? And am I leaving them a legacy of not, financial means or worldly means, but more a legacy of knowing how to venture down this path and being brave to venture down this path and stretch themselves as well. I think that's the important component, right? And so, the fear for me of failure is, and I don't really fear the failure component, because that's where the growth always happens. We talk about that a lot, but that is sometimes the limiting step in terms of, am I stretching myself enough? You started with, if you can believe it, you can achieve it. And I agree. Sometimes I think we take the half steps, right? I know I have in my life. It's like, oh, have I really stretched myself as far as I could have or I needed to in that moment? And I think what holds me back is I'm not afraid of failing. What I'm afraid of is not being able to provide, and all of those needs.
Excellent. Tammy, yeah.
I just wanted to add to that, because I think that it's so spot on that, where are your priorities? And your priorities, if your priorities are your family, which I think certainly for most women, that ends up being the top of the list. You need to know what you want, why you want it, how bad you want it. But I think the thing that helps you to stick with it and be willing to take risks is who benefits if I succeed. And for me, looking at it, anytime that you're in that gut feeling of, do I take this risk or I take this chance? I'm a huge believer in stretching yourself in every facet of your life, physically, mentally, emotionally, But the picture in my mind is if my daughter and my granddaughter were sitting on my shoulder, would they be proud of what I'm doing right now?
Mhm.
Or would they say, you're phoning it in, you're settling right now? And I firmly believe fear is a feeling, not a fact. And so if I do enough homework in the background and I really pay attention to who benefits if I succeed, and will this be a good example? And exactly what you said, Lynette, I want to leave a legacy, but I want to leave a legacy that they're going to grow further than I ever imagined, and they're going to take those risks because I took those risks, because I was willing to take those chances. They're going to take those chances themselves. Mindset is 4 times as important as any of the activities that you do. So protecting your headspace and really focusing on where you want to be and trying to visualize it as many times as you possibly can. But when you can picture your children, grandchildren, whoever it is that you are priorities in your life, and you can picture, we're going to do this because of taking that risk. We're going to experience this. Experiences trump everything. What can we do with this? I think you can hang on to the passion. When you find yourself doing a gut check, and it's really checking in with yourself on a regular basis, and you realize, is your tribe like this tribe, right? Is this a circle of people that are going to push you out of your comfort zone and cheer for you on the other side? If there's anybody that's in that group that's not going to be that way for you, you need to find another group, right? So if you're in a company, an organization, a job that you feel like, wow, I'm the only person that brought the wow factor today and everyone else seems to be phoning it in, it might be time for you to take a new chance, or at least have a serious chat with everybody on, all right, we're going to, focus on 90 days to greatness. And here's what I'm seeing and here's what I have for expectations. But, they always say work on yourself more. I think we have to do that in order to hit the expectations. And, you mentioned something earlier, and I didn't address it at the time, but sometimes I think we make ourselves smaller because we don't want anybody else to be uncomfortable. And we don't have to brag. We don't have to go out and say, hey, here's the list of all the things I've accomplished. I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm kind of a big deal. We don't have to go down those paths. What we can go down is owning the day, owning the room, owning your circumstances, owning what you're doing, and see how we can draw people in to help pull them up. And if you're not pulling them up, I remember going to a reunion a bazillion years ago and everyone apologizing to me for where they were. I'm just this, I'm just that, I'm just this, only because they knew my title. They knew nothing else about my life or what I was facing or, where anything went to. And I felt awful and unbelievably uncomfortable and kept trying to help them, to see what value they were providing, excuse me, and see what they were doing. And you start to do that sitting back so you don't make anybody uncomfortable. And it's okay to be an observer sometimes, but you have to be true to yourself in order to be able to really lead. And you have to be true to what it is that you want to do, and know that that's not going to be comfortable for everybody, but it is going to be comfortable for those people that are your family, those people that are your tribe, that you were meant to impact. People become who we show them they can be. And so if we make ourselves smaller, we're going to encourage them to make themselves smaller, or to not be enough, or to sit on the sidelines. And I don't think I don't believe that's healthy for anybody.
I once had I did it myself, and I had encouraged people, mostly women that worked with me, to take the word just out of every sentence, because there's almost no reason that you should ever use the word just. It actually functions in a very small set of circumstances. But somebody knocks on your door, no. And so to really encourage people, it was a hard thing to do, but once I did it, it fell apart. But if you focus for 6 months on taking that out, Tammy, I wanted to follow up on something. I don't want to necessarily switch too fast because I want to hear Teresa's sort of personal experiences, but you do have a lot of tribes and teams that you have been around and that you have led from the front or within. And I want to know, what are some of the things that you do to help other people on your team stretch yourself? One, do you want all the team members to stretch themselves, or does that create chaos?
No.
And so what do you do to do that, or encourage it and support it?
Well, I think first you need to personalize to every single individual. So whether that's doing personality profiles, so you see where their strengths are, you connect with them on LinkedIn and Facebook, so you see where their passions are, and you ask them, truly, what are your dreams? Where do you see yourself in the next 1, 3, 5 years? If you could wave a magic wand, perfect world, paint the picture for me, but then take notes on it so you personalize. Nothing frustrates me more than seeing a leader that literally looks past their people and doesn't make it personal. People become what we tell them they can be. And when they share this dream and this vision, and we can keep checking in on where they are, now they're drawn to want to grow, and they all want to help the whole group. And sharing a vision that if we all participate, we're all going to get to this level, all boats rise to the same tide. But I think personalization is so much more important than people give it credit for. People want to matter. They want to be part of something better. That's Wall Street Journal statistics, not mine, right? They want to be part of something better, and they want to really feel like they belong. And we can't do that by having I, me. It has to be us and we. It has to be us and we. But each individual, when you can really highlight for them what you see in them, it's amazing to see the transformation, because a lot of people are not around anybody that really tells them that. Their circumstances, their limiting beliefs could be in a totally different direction. We can only fail 3 ways: not enough information or not accurate information, limiting beliefs, and distraction. And it's easy to have all of those things, but when we have a focus, and that focus is something that we want to accomplish together, and that we have this really big passion, what if? And we start dreaming in that direction. What if? What if it didn't have to be that way? What if we did this? What if we did this and we all participated together? And truly only focus on the solution, never focus on the problem.
That's a really good takeaway, I think, in sort of the practice, I guess, of stretching ourselves. Teresa, how do you identify those areas where you want to stretch yourself? I mean, it changes and evolves, and it's in different parts of your life. Sort of how do you strive towards it?
It's certainly, I'm in a group that I'm stretching right now myself. Listen to all these talented, incredible women, right? And so looking at that and being part of this group, already I'm stretching myself because I'm learning new ideas, takeaways, and really expanding my own ability to lead. So one of the things that, there are so many examples of ways that I have actually stretched myself throughout my career that I can't even begin to just mention one. One that comes to mind during NARAB, I just participated in the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, and I was leading as a moderator. And I had 2 talented women that were talking about real estate, and #1 agent in Charlotte was there, Melissa Greer, and also had Tanya Brown, who's one of our top brokers in that marketplace. And for the first time, I had to really be quiet because I had to listen. I have a tendency to love to talk, right? But in this case, I was actually moderating a group, and that's really important, right, for me. So stretching myself in that way is a way that I can actually tell you, because sometimes listening is part of a skill set that I really need to work on. But during the time at that event, I had an extra box of books. And the books were a book that Johnny Johnson wrote. He is the author. He was an LA Ram football player. He wrote a book, 8 Ways on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, from athletics to engineering. And he's very well known coach, right? And also a very good friend of our very own CEO, Gina Bafari. And so he asked me years ago, when he wrote the book, which was right after George Floyd, the death of George Floyd, and he was asked to write this book with a professor from University of Texas A&M, who's an engineering professor, and he was having difficulty being a white college professor and being able to handle the situation with his engineering stewards, who were primarily all white males, in handling what do we do? And Johnny Johnson said, hey, let's write this book together that we can talk about how the hope that there is in D&I. And y'all know there's a lot of attack on D&I right now, but the hope and the opportunity that there is to work together, and why it's really incredible. But the reason I bring up the book is because I actually was giving it away as a gift during that conference. And I wrote the foreword to that book. And let me tell you, today, you know, that we've got AI that could make it very easy for me to write a forward, because I could write my words and get that to be able to help me. I am horrible at writing. You know, it takes me forever to put together a thought on paper, because Desiree, you know that I talk like I write. Well, that's not the right way to write, right? And so when he asked me to do the forward, of all the people in the world to ask to write a forward, he asked me. And I was like, why me? Like, I just couldn't understand. You know, there's so many other people that, you know, my God, you're an LA Ram, you're in the NFL, you do, you know. And he goes, no, you were the perfect person, because you lead the D&I efforts for one of the most prestigious organizations in the country. And it just took all of that for me to realize, gosh, I am doing that. And Tammy, just like you said, sometimes we don't, you know, we kind of don't really talk about what we're doing and the incredible impact that it has on other people. But to write that forward, you have no idea the nightmare that I had just to put words on paper. And so, you know, and to have that honor to do it. So I'm extremely proud of that, because I had to stretch myself to do something that I knew would be in a paper, right, in a book. And again, y'all know how I feel about books, but that it would be in a book, right? And that people would be reading, and would be a legacy that would continue on. So again, stretching yourself, whatever the mind can conceive, it can achieve. I truly believe that. And you know, one of the things that you mentioned, Lynette, about failure, that is so scary. That's sometimes what holds us back. But failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of success. That's what makes us who we are, because so many of us have to fail in order to succeed. And I think that's really one of the things that I have adopted this year. Failure is part of success. And so I love this principle. Y'all all know that it was one of my favorite principles to begin with, because whatever that you believe you can do, you can actually achieve it. And Tammy, your points were spot on. And Vanessa, that growth and expansion that you needed to experience in order for you to grow, that's all part of that whole ideology. So again, stretching myself, that's something I do every day. And I'm so honored to be part of this group where I can stretch and actually learn every single thing that I do in my way of learning and experiencing and leading.
So Teresa, you are a very confident person, and in that incident, in a great way, but in that instance, you were talking about almost needing somebody else to believe in you in order for you to stretch yourself. And so when do you normally need that? Does everybody normally need that? Do we need it? Because sometimes we don't have that. And when we don't have it, does anybody here engage in sort of self-talk, or, you know, writing out what they want? Tammy, you mentioned mindset as well. But Teresa, how do you pump yourself up to stretch yourself? How do you, like, what do you do? And I mean, some people do dance, some people listen to music. Like, what is it do you do practically to motivate yourself to sort of, when it's painful, to move forward?
Well, first of all, that you said that I'm a confident person, that really surprises me, because that is not my personality. You know, I don't have that. I didn't grow up that way. So, you know, so I listen to a lot. I am very inspired by other people. I'm inspired by intellectuals. That's really kind of where I get a lot. And Desiree, we were just talking about that, because of the fact that you read a lot. I'm inspired by YouTubers. Like, I watch a lot of motivational, inspirational movies, and also, videos that really talk about achievements or inspiration of how they got there, or those courage, those up and coming stories of someone that had to overcome adversity in order to win an Olympic, all of those things. That's what inspires me. So anytime I feel low, I go on YouTube and say, okay, I'm going to watch this on Oprah Winfrey and how she, built her $1 billion empire, because that's what inspires me and that's what I learned from.
So Tammy, what do you do to sort of motivate yourself to move further?
Well, I think a couple of things. First, I practice savers every morning. So it's silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing, writing. So there's a quiet time before anything else gets started. And so my headspace is in the right place before I go anywhere else. And it has to be a discipline. Sometimes I have a minute for each, literally, and sometimes it stretches out, but I don't skip doing it. And I think that that's so important to have the stuff in front of you. There's a great planner that's called Full Focus Planner. And when you have dreams, but you also have the steps to take in front of you, now you have something to move. The best thing that gets us off the dime is action, right? I'll take an action plan over a blueprint every day of the week, because the blueprint, people give you business plans that are 30, 50, 100 pages and great, you're great with charts and graphs and all that, but what are you going to do about it? And so the action plan gives you the opportunity to act. And a couple other things that really help me that I think will help others. I meet with at least one new leader a week, whether that's through Zoom or a phone call, and from every facet of life. It doesn't have to just be in business. And you learn something from every single one of them, but I make sure that I add value to them too. I do my homework on that person so that I'm adding value to them while I'm there. And that helps to push you out of your comfort zone, but lift you up to keep pushing yourself to the next level. And then connect people. Anybody that you know, it could be any of us on this call, or it could be somebody else, but you see something somebody's working towards and think, you know what, that person could really help you and make you a little bit more comfortable in this arena, or you guys would be a great match working together for X, Y, and Z. And that's in your real world. I love what Teresa had to say, watching motivational anything all the time. I'm a giant reader. I read 300 books a year. I'm an information junkie. No 12-step program for it. So this is a great book from a standpoint of really being able to help that next group, keeping yourself in the right headspace, but also, and making sure you're on the right track, but also to help pull these other people forward with your mission. And it's called Leading with Significance, How to Create a Magnetic People First Culture. And it was written by Joey Havens. And it's a great thing for just really helps you to fine tune, making it up close and personal. Be true to yourself and you'll be able to lead others by pulling people in another direction. I can't emphasize enough how important mindset is. So you do have to check in with yourself. And we all go through times when, we're not feeling as strong. I'm on my third round. I just finished my third round of antibiotics. So when you're not feeling good, you could be in this little bit of low. So what is it that's going to be pulling you out and taking you to that next level? And the more you're used to doing it and you get it into a habit, the faster you can pull yourself up and keep yourself going no matter what the circumstances are.
Desiree, what do you do? Oh, you're on mute.
That would be helpful. To be forward, the NDILC, you think about, if I were to tie in, and this is going to go back to second about the previous question, the fear. I had a very successful career leading, selling thousands of properties, 6,000 to 7,000 properties in my career. And I was one of the best in what I did in that time period. And I transitioned to say, I'm comfortable in that, what Vanessa talked about. I was so comfortable selling it. It was clockwork, here's 150 listings there. Go out, find if it's, occupied or not, do the rehab, push it out, whatever. Anything that was a problem, I took care of it. Whether, we were trying to sell chattel property and you couldn't close on it because it was foreclosure, I got insurance company. So every obstacle that no one could do, I found a workaround. And after doing that for so many years, I said, I want to do something different. So I formed the NDILC, and everyone that's been on the NDILC over the years has retired, been in the infrastructure, whatever, has given me the encouragement, excitement to continue doing what I'm doing and to overcome, not only on a professional level, the personal level challenges that I've gone through in my life. We all know about my son and my husband. And that time, had I not had the NDILC to be part of my life, I wouldn't be here. I'm being very truthful, because 10 years ago, if you think about it, in 2013, I'll be 11 years now. Actually, it's 11 years now because of February. My husband and son both were in separate hospitals dying. Indira, you know this to the nth degree as my lawyer. And then all the money that was stolen, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so that time, seeing the success, the excitement that everyone here on the council has, and you're wondering, are you doing something that people are going to be so complex and not understand the vision where we're going? But after the journey of where we are now, everything's clicking. Like the excitement in my face, the excitement and going places and being able to connect all the dots. But there was many roads of doubt. And so your comment is, what do I do? Or your question is, what do I do to keep myself going? And what are those practices? One, take care of my Zen, take care of my health, and focus on me. Because if I'm not here, I can't help anyone else. And so last year was an intentional program to where I had to focus whether I could help anyone else. It didn't matter. I had to help me get my health in order, get my diet back in order, get in shape in order, start dressing up, feeling good about myself. And when the obstacles happened, I had clarity. So I'm getting my mind back into shape. Are we doing things? Can I think without, I had long COVID like Vanessa, how do we go through that? Can we think clearly? Well, I found out animal proteins caused me not to think clearly. So every day in the middle of the night, whatever, I'm going, oh, why didn't you? That was a no-brainer. So if I can get back to being better than I was before, I win. So the success of stretching yourself is getting my mind back in shape, but even be better than it was before. Now executing a plan I started 15 years ago. And all of you, because you not only bought into it, you support it. You're my best friends. You bring this environment that gets me so excited that I live off of this. So when COVID happened, one of the greatest things to me was to be able to do this every month. This is like living our events. Instead of doing annually, we're living it every month. And then each one of you I talk to or text, or we have a communication during the time that's an ongoing relationship to help. So for me, it's getting to what Tammy said, getting my system of those 7 things. I must stretch. I must keep the body moving. I must make sure that I take a moment to, look at what are the needs of straightening things up so I am less cluttered and I can focus on the top priorities, the top 3 things that day that I know I accomplishment, and not be overwhelmed by the noise. There's so much noise. And I met with, remember Dr. Alexis Crow from PwC, the head of geopolitical investing that we had in 2019? I had lunch with her. She flew out from New York, and we spoke about the spiritual side. To me, that is everything. Because if I have my mindset, what we're talking about, in the right place, the body starts working better. I'm the best steward of my body, which then is the best steward of helping other people. And it gives back to me the excitement that I give to you. I live through your excitement. It makes me excited.
Excellent. And then Lynette, I do see we're winding down on time, but I do want to know, you did talk about the self-evaluations and sort of self-assessment that generally that you do. Are there other tangible, practical steps that you take to motivate yourself to keep stretching forward? Is it writing down? Oh, you're on mute too.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe like all of us, I feel like I do a lot, but it's become very rhythmic in my life, right? So from my perspective, it all starts with, for like every one of us here, for so many years, I've led organizations. And one day, not so long ago, I woke up and I went, just a second, my life is an organization. I have people that I'm responsible for. I have an infrastructure that I need to make sure runs. I have a strategy that I better have a strategy that we're working toward here. And so I actually came across, sort of when that awakening happened, I came across a system because I'm a very systematic person, I'm very process oriented, and it encompasses very much a little bit of what everybody is talking about, but I literally run that system. I treat my life like an organization. Annually I have a vision and a plan, that gets, or I have a vision and a plan. I have a vision that gets renewed annually, and then I put the plan in place to execute on the vision. I set, the annual goals, the quarterly goals, I measure against them every month. And then I have my daily things that literally I focus on to ensure I'm moving toward that process, right? But of course, like every organization, sometimes you run out of steam, right? And so we all need sort of those reinvigorating things. In an organization, what does that look like? It looks like getting back down to basics. It looks like reconnecting with people and just being human. And sometimes it's about sharing a great meal together or getting out and, taking retreats and getting out of the day-to-day. And so the things that really inspire me are I spend a lot of time in nature. I'm grateful that I live in a place that I'm surrounded by nature. Have a wonderful walking companion, running companion. She loves to do hill sprints in the form of a very furry Australian Shepherd, has tons of energy. So that energizes me. And sometimes I just look at my kids, and you all know how important my children are to me. But, just they're at this place, and again, 28 and 13, where they have such unique perspectives on the world. And I look at them and I go, that's the inspiration, is those are their perspectives. And how do I do everything that I can to really support that? And so I've talked about this as well. We've now begun recording our podcast, the Mom and the Two Daughters podcast. It's called She Got It From Her Mama. We haven't yet released it yet. So we're just working on the content, but even just that, if it never gets released, has been such a motivational inspiration, because I get to just hear from my kids, their perspectives on different things, which is a grand motivation for me. And it comes back to what Desiree kind of said. The system that I have fallen into is not just about like strategic planning. It's really having a holistic approach to life, right? And so I have 12 categories, similar to how we have 12 principles with this group. I have 12 categories. Every month of the year is dedicated to one of those 12 categories, which starts with your health and fitness, because you're absolutely right, Desiree. If you do not have health, you have nothing. You can't be anything to anybody. So it starts there in January, and then throughout the year, it evolves through your intellectual life, your emotional life, your spiritual life, the character. Who do you want to be, and how do you want to show up in the world? Right through to, what's the career you want to focus on? What's this vehicle that you want to utilize to leave this legacy in the world, which is really what a career ought to be for all of us, right? And then how you manage your finances, because without money, nothing can really, it just makes all of this easier to facilitate, right? Right down to what's the quality of life that I want to have. Put all of those things together, and what is that quality that I want my life to be? So that's what I do, and I find it very inspirational, because every month I'm revisiting and renewing on every one of those categories, and it means that I'm not leaving anything behind. I'm not leaving my emotional life in the gutter while I'm focusing on building my career. The career might be the lever that's moving me forward in many of those categories. But what I have found is actually sometimes it's my emotional capacity that I need to really focus on, because that's the biggest lever for right now. It opens me up as a better leader, opens me up as a better parent, opens me up to, just being a better part of the ecosystem. So that's what I do, really, again, being mindful. It comes back to, what Tammy kind of said, it's being mindful. And very similarly, I run a morning routine. It's the same routine every day, but it includes all of those things: mindfulness, learning, exercise is critically important. It's literally the first thing I do: guzzle and hydrate my body, and then move it. It gets everything kind of moving, and the learning is usually a part of it. I will tell you, the biggest thing that you can do is habit stack. As many of those things as you can stack on top of one another and do them within the same period of time, and get the benefits in that same 15, 20, 30 minutes, the better off you can be. And, hacking life is really inspirational to me. So
Awesome.
that's kind of where I'm at.
Excellent. Tammy?
I just wanted to add one more thing. There's a great book called One Word That Will Change Your Life. And one of the things we do even for our company is we have everybody pick one word that they're going to focus on for the year. And I'm saying that because it can really stretch you, and it also can keep you focused and keep you passionate. My one word for this year is transformational. I want to make sure that every time I go out and speak, every time I go out and meet with people, that it's transformational for whoever I'm in front of, that it's going to transform something in their lives, make them think different, do different. And so, but everyone in our organization has a one word. And that's one of the things, because you were talking about from leading, it's great because I not only find out what their one word is, but why they chose it. So that every time that I can go back to them and see, are they still concentrating in that direction? Are they still focused on strength because they weren't that strong last year and they really want to become stronger as a person and more resilient, or that they want to have more joy in their life. So they're focused on joy. But whatever that one word is, I have the list of all of them so that I can, every time that I'm with them, it can be much more personalized to what it is they really want, not just what we want as a company. And for anybody out there, I think it's one great thing that every single person can do. You just pick a word that you know is going to stretch you, or that's going to help you to stick with something, but something that's a real strong priority for you for the year. And if you're leading other people, having them do it as well, because it gives you another way to connect, and connection is so important. Asking yourself, what is that one word that I believe will help give me fulfillment throughout the whole year, or will help fulfill other people's needs? But I feel like that helps everybody and anybody, regardless of your age range or what it is you're doing for a living, or where you are right now in your life.
That's excellent. So Desiree, we're coming up on our 1 hour.
Yeah.
Do you have any announcements or anything? I think this was a good place.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Indira, for doing this. It's been incredible. And you look at our comments, it's like, you know, Fab says, Teresa, I'm with you. I don't write how I talk. Lots of laughs, you know, better being than we were yesterday. And so all these wonderful comments on what's going on. And, you know, you think about, you know, the world we're living in right now, everything we're talking about is so resonant and how we're stacking and pulling things together. So thank you so much for it. So next month, it's going to be, we're going to have Lift Others to continue the conversation of the 12 principles, empowering future generations. This is exactly, I love, she got it from her mama. Yes, fantastic, Lynette. Empowering future generations of women by providing opportunities contributes to a lasting legacy. So even if it doesn't go into a podcast, the fact is that the moment of now, where it's going to, I just love it, love it. So thank you all. Remember, since last time we had this, we've already got Chapman University that's very interested in and going to have us come on as the NDILC council to give a virtual session to the young women professionals and career that going out there. So if you know one, as you watch this on YouTube and all LinkedIn, every place else we have this posted, please let us know. We'll be happy to do a virtual session for you, because it's about sharing what the NDILC is about to bring it to you to help advance your careers and where we're going. And it's not just the professional side, it's the ambience of confidence and all what the 12 principles relate to. So thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Be safe and stay healthy and have an incredible day. So thank you again, Indira, and everyone else. All right, take care.
Thank you.
Take care.